this is another edition of the home edition
Yes.
of Scribbly Adapted.
Quarantined
version.
Lasting a little too long.
But welcome, guys. We have a very special guest, great artist. Her name is Precious Stone. She is the director of the film Don't Ever Change.
You know, I was thinking, maybe tomorrow I could come over to your house and cook for you.
Don't ever change.
I won't.
Precious, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Definitely. I'm going to talk about the film. Obviously, that's why we're here.
Yes.
And, you know, the trailer that we just saw was for Don't Ever Change, a short film by our guest tonight, Precious Stone, as we've just mentioned. And tell us about what inspired you to make this film.
All my writing involves some type of personal experience, whether directly or indirectly through observation. The title Don't Ever Change came from a personal experience of mine that I kind of adapted to this idea that the truth to any story is inevitable, but change is not. Mm-hmm. So it involves this young girl named Anna, and she discovers a truth about her secretive lover, and she has to decide between reality and illusion. So it really defines, you know, do you stay stuck in an entanglement of lies, or do you accept the truth?
Right. And that's very interesting because I think that was very apparent in the way that you edited it and the way you cut it. It shows that she's like, it goes back and forth between flashbacks of her relationship with this man and then her present moment where she's distraught and she's just in despair. And, you know, so I think that was very evident. So editing is key. I mean, it shows really a story from beginning to end.
And also jumping on the editing, mentioning the color scheme as well. So Anna, the character Anna, when she's really, I fell for her, by the way. I was like,
I did.
God, oh man.
And she had no idea he was
She had
married.
no idea. But the color red, right? I felt represented like this turmoil, this heartache. And then you see the flashbacks to their their relationship then, and it's in color and it's bright and it's airy. So really great job, like just differentiating that emotion. That was
definitely,
really cool.
definitely.
You know, I fought the co-producer so hard with that one, and I'm really happy that he won.
Yeah.
It needs to have emotion, like the color's supposed to help the emotion.
Yes.
Back, I was like, okay, you're right. You're right. That played a really good hand in understanding the differences as you notice it starts to get darker and darker as she starts to get darker and darker.
Yeah, and you know, it's key because during one of our shows, we talked about different directors and like David Fincher, right? Yeah. You know, David Fincher films in like this sepia tone. He always is my first example because he just sticks out in my mind. But certain directors film, you know, with certain colors, and I think it really sets the tone and it sets the mood. And with a film like Don't Ever Change, you need to have the tone set.
And a mood.
Yeah. You feel her emotions, you feel, and I think it was also a sense of betrayal because am I right in assuming she had no idea he was married?
Yes.
Okay, so you feel her sense of betrayal, you feel her despair at thinking that she had something special with this man who has been betraying her the whole time. And then also might be too deep, but we want to assume that maybe she's a good person. So maybe she's feeling also despair at the fact that she's now kind of inadvertently broken up a marriage.
Yeah, I think it was a struggle for her to understand the different aspects of the truth, you know. We see, as far as the title, Don't Ever Change, and him, you know, even through the trailer, it depicts him saying that to her. But, you know, there are so many different changes that happen in the actual film, as far as emotions and understanding of what's actually going on, what's the full story.
Right. What about the production process? What part was your favorite?
I think directing it was my favorite. I didn't realize I would actually enjoy directing as much. I went into it. It's my first project that I actually directed independently, and it was a huge role that I was playing. It's different when you write content and then you give it to someone else, and it's their ability to then turn around and interpret it the way they want to interpret it. But I had a responsibility as the writer and the director to kind of interpret it the way I had originally wanted it to be interpreted. And I wanted the storyline to stay consistent with that.
When did your love for film and the arts start? Like, I feel like every artist has that, like, defining moment, or maybe not, but when did yours blossom?
I thought, even at a very young age, I'm going to write my own autobiography. And I tried that for about 3.5 years, and for some reason I couldn't get past chapter 3. It was a very hard process to write about yourself, right?
Yes.
And I recall a conversation I had with a good dear friend of mine. He lives in DR, and he said, "Why don't you write it in a screenplay?" And I thought, well, I don't want to turn this into a movie. And I could not sleep that night. And I got up and I thought, you know, let me try it. And I went through the whole night. And by morning, well, I had a 3-part movie.
Oh, wow.
So excited, you know, like, oh my gosh, you were right. And I prayed on it. And I thought, this might be a calling of mine. And I started to write other stories that I had, you know, experienced directly or indirectly through observation. And it evolved. It became what it is now. So.
Making this film, of course, when you're a filmmaker, you have hopes and expectations for the movie. Do you have any expectations or any hopes as far as film festival circuit, maybe getting picked up in series possibly? I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm just putting it out there.
We're just
putting it in
there. We're projecting life into your film.
This was my first film that I worked on completely independently. I, wrote it, directed, co-produced it. I had a wonderful co-producer, Daron Griffith. He was awesome to work with. We worked with some of the amazing up-and-coming actors for the project, and I didn't have any real expectation. It was much of a learning experience for me, debuting my own directorial debut in this short film, and so there wasn't really any expectation. When I saw it completely edited, I thought, oh, this is actually pretty good.
That's okay. You're allowed to say that.
Mistakes during your first huge project like this, and we're putting it out into the world for everyone else to see as far as film festivals are concerned.
We actually watched it twice. So we watched it a couple of months ago when the studio was still open and we first thought we were going to be interviewing you, and then just to refresh, we watched it again. And I still stick by it. I thought it was brilliant. And it's so interesting for me because in the beginning, you think the title means one thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then you see it change, the gravity of it change. It almost matches the gradient and the nuances of your color in the film. Mm-hmm. It gets darker. And I think to me, what I really looked at it as was it wasn't apparent to me until the last scene when you see him in the parking lot eyeing that girl. Mm. And I said to Coyote, the title is not about her. The title is about him. Yeah. And it's like, he's never going to change, and I was like, oh, babe, that's what it's about. It's about him. And it's like, you're right when you said it's about truth, but it's also about, whether you're going to change or not. Mm-hmm. And truth is inevitable, but it's really what you do with that truth. So am I right in assuming that? Like, was that your purpose behind that?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kate. That is exactly what the film is about. You know, you think one character is the main character, and then you realize when you watch to the end that that character may have been the main character, but the film is actually, the storyline is about someone else.
Right.
Don't ever change.
I won't.
How did you pick these actors? What was the process like? If you want to take us through that.
Absolutely. We put the casting out and we had over 1,000 people reply. It's very important to me to pick a female actor that could embody the character very well.
Yeah.
And so one of the requirements were, could they cry on cue?
That's not easy.
It's very hard.
Not easy.
Very hard. And so we went through a whole slew of actresses, and many of them attempted it, right? Because it's like, oh yeah, I can cry on cue because they're developed actors.
Right.
And then they realized they couldn't embody that character. And Nicole Lemieux, she was amazing. So we said to her, can you cry on cue? And she was like, 1 second, let me try. And she just started to cry and cry. And all of us, the whole panel, we were crying.
Oh no!
She's the one.
Yeah. This is a question we usually ask all of our guests. It's a hard one. Don't be stumped, but we do need one answer. All right. We want to know, what is your favorite movie and why? Okay,
so my favorite movie is Pride and Prejudice. I love this film for many reasons. The screenplay writer, Debbie McGock, is amazing. You know, she's an amazing author, but I think she does an amazing job writing this and translating it into a screenplay. And I'll explain why. If you've seen the film, you'll understand it has many different dynamics of love and relationships between Keira Knightley and her love interest, between her and the different relationships she has with her family. I think it's both authentic and relatable to many audience members. I think that's hard. You know, as a screenwriter, it's so easy to write anything, right? You can write anything. But making something that is believable and trust your audience is very important. And she did an amazing job during that film.
Precious, it has been such a pleasure. We have had such a great time getting to know you, getting to know the film. Don't Ever Change. Thank you so much for coming on to our show, Artist Roundtable. To all of you that are watching, this is Kate and Coyote from Swiftly Adapted, Artist Roundtable featuring Precious Stone about her film Don't Ever Change. Keep your eye on her. She's up to great things and big things. Follow her on all her social media handles, as you can see below.
Right on the bottom. Right below.
Follow us on all our social media handles. And stay tuned for more episodes of Artist Roundtable. Take care,
guys.
Thank you.